Welcome to Oye, Let's Talk podcast. I'm your host, Marido, a bilingual counselor in Houston, Texas. Join me as I dismantle taboo topics, open the doors for much needed and a veces hard conversations about life and mental health. The information shared in this podcast is not a substitute for seeking help from a licensed mental health professional and is not a substitute for psychological diagnosis. So let's jump in. Oye, let's talk. Welcome to episode 1 of Oye, Let's Talk podcast. 30 Latina, sin hijos y sin marido. So what is it like to be a Latina in her 30s without kids? Why is it such a big deal? Why does it seem like people pity 30-year-olds who are not married and don't have kids? I personally get frustrated when people me ve con lástima. And I'm over here living my best life. Not sorry that I've chosen to get an education and then a career before starting a family. Me dicen, ya se te pasó el tren. But what they don't understand is that I'm not trying to get on the same train they did. My train is headed into a different destination. So, no se me ha pasado el tren. Because I'm not trying to get on their train. So here's the thing. No one in my family has ever experienced turning 30 like I have. If you don't already know, I'm a Latina, and all the generations of women before me were married and had kids by my age. My mom had 4 kids by the age of 30. Her mother, my abuelita, had a total of 9 kids, and she started having kids when she was a teenager. My paternal grandmother had a total of 20 kids. Yes, I know it sounds like a lot, and I still can't believe it, and I think it's crazy that she had a total of 20 kids. She started having kids when she was like 14. So if I think about it, I'm the first woman in my family to live the 30s the way I'm living it, because if I look at my cousins, they're not in the same situation I am. So if you're like me, 30, Latina, sin hijos y sin marido, take a moment to reflect if you are also living a new and totally different life than the women from previous generations to you. So I've told you how many aunts and uncles I have. That means I have a lot of cousins. I mean, a lot. I don't even know how many we are, to be honest. So we come in age groups. So we have like the older cousins who are like in their mid 30s to early 40s, and then the 30-year-olds, the 20-year-olds, and then some teenagers. And the majority of my cousins all have kids. All the 20-year-olds have children. The teenagers, not so much. But 20 and up, everybody has kids. Almost everybody. Except me, right? So when people see me compared to my cousins and family, they worry about me. And can I hear the ticking of my biological clock? Yes. And I never heard it until I turned 30. This, like a couple of months ago, wasn't even on my mind, y'all. So when I look at all the previous generations of women before me and I see they were living a completely different life and lifestyle from me, and when they ask me why I'm not married yet, I have to remember they're coming from a place of love and worry about me. I have to remember that when they were my age, they had a whole family, which was their goal. Or maybe it wasn't their goal per se, but it was the only option they had at that time. So when they're measuring me against their goals and expectations, do I look like a failure? Well, yes. Does that mean I'm a failure? Of course not. Those were their traditions and expectations. When they're worried about us not fulfilling the goals their parents set for them, they come from a place of worry and love. They don't want me to be a solterona y que se me vaya el tren. And like I mentioned in the beginning, they just don't understand that I'm not trying to catch the same train they are. And I'm all for the culture and keeping up with traditions, but not all traditions and nuances of the culture need to be followed. The culture and the traditions can evolve. Am I out of the norm from the culture? Yes. Does that make my path wrong? No. I believe I have chosen the right path. I am the first in all the generations of women to graduate from high school, the first to go to college, and the first to get a master's degree. My priorities were different, but most importantly, the opportunities I had were different. So, okay, mi madre, la suya, y la tuya. What do they have in common? They didn't have an option to choose a path that wasn't having kids and getting married. The option to get an education and a career wasn't conceivable. I didn't even think about it as an option for me, but look at me now. Look at the reason people had quinceañeras. Like, let's think about it. They were to present their daughters to society and say she's now a woman and to find a suitor for her. That was like the original purpose of quinceañeras. Thankfully, that has evolved and they no longer have that meaning. So the 30s are the new 20s. And let me explain why. It's not just a cool saying. Like, I like to think that, but it's not just a cool saying. What our parents and their parents did when they were in their 30s, well, most of them had kids already, several of them. They worked, supported their children, and possibly bought a house. Their 20s were used to have kids and build the foundation for their family. What's my plan for my 30s now? To do what my parents did when they were in their 20s. Have kids and build a family. What did I do in my 20s? I partied and went to school. They didn't experience that in their 20s. So let me share with y'all, and I'm going to be vulnerable right now. So the month I turned 30, well, the month before I turned 30, I was very, very sad. Like, so sad. I was on the border of depression. And I had to go see my therapist and process it. I was like, hey, I'm having a small crisis over turning 30. I need help. Not having kids and being single weighed so heavily on me that I was so stressed. I was like, I literally was having like a crisis moment at that time. So if you're like me and you're struggling to adjust to this new decade, don't be afraid to reach out to a mental health counselor or to talk to someone who will not judge you or make you feel bad. Because I know if you go to family with these worries, they'll probably be like, yeah, you should be worried. You do need to find a husband. Go to therapy. You don't have to be in extreme crisis or have a certain diagnosis to go to therapy. Like I said, I was like bordering on depression and going into a crisis, not full crisis mode, but it doesn't mean that to go to therapy, you have to be like in full crisis mode. You can go to therapy like before you reach that. You know, you want to learn skills and tools to be able to manage what's going on before you have a full blown crisis. But if you're already in crisis mode, don't worry. Like, go ahead and look for a therapist that you can talk to. And I always tell people that counseling benefits everybody. You don't have to have a specific diagnosis to go to therapy. As therapists, we do deal with a lot of different issues, and sometimes you just need to talk to somebody that's going to just listen to you and validate you without judging you, without trying to give you advice. So reach out to somebody and get some help. I know that helped me. So if you do want to have a conversation with your family to get them off your back or just to calm their worries, let them know how you're feeling. If you're like me and living a completely different 30s, and just because you're 30, it does not mean que el tren te dejó. Like, we already talked about, this train we're trying to catch is going to a different destination, right? Es más, like now that 30-year-olds that are married and with kids encourage me to enjoy the single life without kids. They're like, you know what? You shouldn't even get married. Like, don't do it. Reconsider. That's what all my friends and family that are 30 are telling me now. So now they're kind of jealous of my lifestyle because, you know, I like enjoy my single life and I travel and I do all this like cool stuff. Anyways, so like the whole point of my podcast is for you to open conversations with your family. So when you have this conversation with your family or whoever like comes to you with their worries, like remember that their worry comes from a place of love. At least that's how I'm thinking about it. So it won't get on my nerves. So let them know that you're okay and there's nothing wrong with the path you're choosing. Like explain to them, hey, I understand that you did this because at my age you had different priorities, you had different experiences, you didn't have the opportunities I had, but I'm okay. Like there's nothing wrong with being 30 without kids and not married yet. You're trying to live your best life out here, right? Lastly, people need to stop asking women when they're going to have kids. One, it's a very personal decision. Two, not all women want to have kids. And three, not all women can have kids. So don't ask women. Like, let women do whatever they want to, okay? And if you're like me, 30, single, without kids, share your experience with me on my Instagram. My handle is at Oye Let's Talk. You can also use hashtag Oye Let's Talk to kind of point something out to me, and I'll be checking that periodically. So if you've considered going to see a therapist but you don't know where to look, I'm gonna leave some links in the show notes. One of my recommendations would be for a directory is latinxtherapy.com, and that's LATINX therapy.com, or Millennium Mental Health. Both of them are directories with clinicians of color that you can go to and find somebody. And I want to invite you to listen to episode 2. I'm going to be talking about domestic violence, and it is going to be an episode all in Spanish. If you enjoyed this podcast, make sure you give us a 5-star rating on iTunes and Apple Podcasts. If you would like to support the Oye Let's Talk podcast, consider donating a cafecito or a coffee. You can donate at coffee.com, and that is ko-fi.com/Oye Let's Talk. I'm a big night owl, and coffee always helps fuel me to be able to create all this content for y'all. As always, if you want me to talk about a difficult topic, email me at oyeletstalk@gmail.com or send me a DM on Instagram. My handle is Oye Let's Talk. And as a reminder, the information provided and any comments or opinions expressed are intended for general discussion and education purposes only.